Well, hello. Hey, if you don't know who I am, my name is Sarah Villacarrillo, and this is my second ever reading vlog. I think a little over a month ago, I read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry and did a vlog on that, where I was reading the physical copy and listening to the audiobook with Spotify Premium. Not sponsored then, still not sponsored now. And I recently purchased Crying in H Mart, a memoir by Michelle Zauner, and it's also on Spotify Premium. Let me show you. See, so my goals for these is to get more immersed into the story. There are 239 pages, so this shouldn't take me too long to listen to. The audiobook is 7 hours and 23 minutes. That's pretty doable. I do listen to audiobooks and podcasts in like 1.2 speed. But if not today, I hope to finish this by tomorrow. I've moved over to my bed so I can sit a little bit better and be a little bit more relaxed. Anyway, let's get cracking.
Penguin Random House Audio presents Crying in H Mart, a memoir. This is the author, Michelle Zauner.
This is the author. She introduced herself. Let's go.
For Oma.
I'm sorry, she said for Oma. I'm gonna cry. Oh no! Oma means mom in Korean. This is gonna hurt my feelings in the best way possible. Let's go. Make me cry.
1. Crying in H Mart. Ever since my mom died, I cry in H Mart. H Mart is a supermarket chain that specializes in Asian food. The H stands for Hanadum, a Korean phrase that roughly translates to one armful of groceries.
Okay, so I paused on chapter 4 to take some notes, and it ended up being an entire page long. I already have a lot of thoughts. So my first note was maybe instead of therapy, I could have read this to understand my childhood parental dynamic. I love the way she started off her memoir as like the present day and trying to reconnect with her culture again in the form of a grocery store, a supermarket, which I think almost encapsulates the Asian American experience. Like all you have is the culture that your parents tell you about, whatever they show you, and food. I also like that she reflects on it very fondly and very respectfully. Personally, I did not like being Filipino growing up, and I'll touch on that later. It honestly is just kind of like an image thing growing up in America and Southern California. There's a lot of diversity, but not that much. And she touched on that as well. In her adolescence, she started discovering that her more Caucasian features made her appear more attractive to Koreans. And her mother was the one that pointed that out. She looked at herself in the mirror and was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I do have that. I'm pretty. Whereas I was told, maybe you play outside too much. And I was like, but I love playing outside. Pocahontas is a fave. Oh, I wrote down that I noticed how a lot of not a lot, some chapters start off a little emotional. It's like she is still coming from the place of present day grieving and mourning and experiencing this loss, or remembering an event that kind of was not the best and probably made her feel upset or sad at that age, and then just kind of talking her way through that event and then seeing it in a more positive light. She talks about how her mom kind of kept the Korean culture alive in her. Her mom would also bring her to Korea for summers growing up. And it seems like it's not necessarily just to keep the Korean culture alive in her daughter, but more for the mom herself. Like her whole family's there. So of course she's gonna want to visit her family. Michelle talks about her grandmother and the way she perceived her growing up and her mom's siblings, and then talks about what it was like for her as a young child to see her mother losing her mother. I was really, really young when my mom lost her mom, so I don't really remember a lot of that time. But it's really funny because Michelle talks about one of the last things that she remembers her grandma telling her. And I remember one of the last things my grandma told me. Hers was funnier. The way she writes it is almost like an out-of-body experience. Like her as a grown adult watching herself as a child, watching her mom go through this whole experience that she's now going through. I don't even know how to describe it, but like the way that she writes it is phenomenal. I have other things to do today, but I kind of don't want to do any of them, and I want to just sit here and read the whole book. I just went through chapter 4 really quick, and Peter's the freaking best. I looked at the back real quick, or not the back, I looked at the acknowledgements. I'm sure if she was married, she would say something to her husband, and it's Peter! They were together the whole time, right? Sometimes your parents know when it comes to your partners. I am on page 78, going into chapter 7. Almost at halfway, I think. It's getting pretty serious. I think for someone who reads a lot more fiction than nonfiction or biographies or memoirs, it's easy for me to default these authors and writers as just another character, start analyzing different things about them. But just the foreshadowing that she writes about it, I start to just automatically judge that person, not necessarily in a negative or positive way specifically, just having a conversation in my head of, this is what I would say to this person. You're like, oh girl, why would you do that, you know? But she's just telling a part of her story. But I guess it's the thing about artists is you just kind of put yourself out there, and a lot more of yourself out there, in a very creative and artistic way. And you have to just leave it out there for people to take as they will. You have no say over how they perceive you after that, because art is subjective. Artists are also subjective, I feel like. There are a lot of things I relate to in this, just also as an Asian American artist person. Basically, sometimes your parents don't want you to do the creative thing, and pursuing that as a young person who doesn't have the full support of your parents like most other people can or do. Also, her thought process of, oh, there's already an Asian female doing this in the music industry. Is there any more space for me? Is so very token mindset, but it's also so real. But yeah, things are getting a little bit serious in the book. And unfortunately, I have some other things I need to do today. Not unfortunately. Unfortunately for me wanting to read this book, I have other things to do today. But fortunately for life, I have other things to do today. So I'm at a library right now. I was just editing a video that's hopefully going to be out by the time this gets out. And I wanted to continue reading because this is the place where you continue reading. My phone is at like 33%. So I don't really know what to do. Hello! I just came back from a dance class. Before that dance class, I was reading at the library. We got into her teen angst years. Interesting that she found her passions through her rebellious phase. As an Asian American artist myself, that really hit close to home. I'm not sure how many other people can relate to this, but it's really difficult to follow your dreams when your primary caregivers don't fully support you. Growing up during your pivotal years, those are really important. The things that your parents or guardians say really do affect you. I noticed that it really builds up a lot more courage and bravery for someone to just do it anyway, because you really do believe in your heart of hearts that that is what you're supposed to do in life. You just do it instinctively and so naturally. I wrote down, there is something about a sickness overtaking someone you love that brings out this utmost empathy. Regardless of where you stand with this person, if you find yourself really truly loving this person and they're going through a tough time, there's just something that overrides all of the things that you've gone through. Your heart just like yearns for them and automatically throws everything out the window, and you're just there for that person 1000%. She talks about how when her mom was going through her first rounds of treatment, her stepping up and being that caretaker for her primary caretaker, just the pure role reversal in that. She compared that to being mothered as a toddler, and now how the turntables and how much of a challenge it was for the both of them to have to now play the other role. And when somebody else stepped in and kind of overtook that role, at the same time her dad was being avoidant, it made that process of beginning to grieve a potential loss start to feel a lot more lonely and isolating, as well as kind of shoving in her face this untapped culture that she thought she was fully immersed in, and kind of exposing the aspects that she wasn't even aware of. So I have some things to do tonight, but I want to continue reading before I go to sleep and go to work tomorrow. So let's see how much more I get into that. Hey, it's the next day. Yes, I'm in the same shirt. So I didn't end up reading last night. I was on the phone with my boyfriend like the whole night. But I just got back from my job. I'm going into chapter 9. Like I said, it's kind of getting a little bit dark because it's getting into like the nitty gritty of her mom being like really sick. So I'm actually kind of glad that I took a little bit of a breather last night. It's about 2 a.m. and I just read through chapter 13. I wanted to share some things that I wrote about this chapter. I've kind of been noticing it throughout the book so far, but it really hit a lot harder in chapter 13. I wrote, she writes with such beautiful juxtaposition that it almost makes you sigh a smile. It's like a sympathetic kind of smile where you're like, Oh child. Her world building in just one moment is very immersive and emphasizes how one monumental split second can be extremely casual to the rest of the world, making you feel expansive and simultaneously minuscule. I don't know if I was influenced by her writing to write it like that, but I think that is the best way I can describe it. These big moments in her life that really just altered everything for her. She starts immediately talking about the external world and her environment when she got a very important phone call. At the same time, she was waving goodbye to her friend who was just like, peace out, homie. See you next time. People are walking around her, minding her own business. A storefront is doing this. All these other things are happening around her. Life is just moving on and you're kind of in a still moment. If anybody has seen the movie Waitress, it's like that, where it's like, okay, this is actually pretty serious, but why am I kind of okay for you? It's not even like a peace or a steadiness. I don't really know how to explain it. If there's a word for that, please tell me. Also, it's 2 a.m. and I just read a very difficult chapter. Good morning. It's a bright sunny day outside and I felt like walking around. I read a little bit last night until about 2 in the morning. I don't know if it's this book or certain times of the month, but I'm feeling really funky right now. My introversion might be screaming, or I just want to retreat and do nothing and make no contact with any human being at all. So I'm forcing myself to go outside and go for a walk. I am taking a dance class tonight, but maybe I just need to get moving. Warning, this book will cause you to walk around outside. What are the odds that the park I chose to walk around in has a free little library? But low-key curious, see what they have here. What is this? I've never gotten to look at one like up close. Oh my gosh, there's layers. There's more in the back. Wow. Hi, I came back from the park and a couple other places. I read a little bit while I was at the park and I forgot that I hadn't really eaten real food. It's almost 3:30, so I got boba and a little bit of Waba Grill. Megan Batoon just posted a new video, so I'm gonna go watch that before I keep reading. I'm super full now. It's the problem with eating only once a day. So I'm going into chapter 19, page 217. There are 20 chapters in this, so I'm 2 chapters away from finishing it. I think I just wanna like power through and hear her out. I'm gonna take some dance classes tonight just to get moving. It says I have 45 minutes left. So I took a nap. I finished reading and listening to the book and then I took a nap and watched a couple of episodes of New Girl. There was something that I listened to and read on my walk. On page 212, she wrote, "Nothing my therapist said was anything I hadn't psychoanalyzed in myself a million times already anyway. I canceled the rest of my sessions and committed myself to exploring alternative forms of self-care." For whatever reason, that really hit me. I'm into therapy. I've been in therapy. It's good stuff. Just like everything else, one thing is not for everyone. I don't know her, but I feel like I do now. Apart from the audiobook being her actual voice, I feel like you could really understand her and really hear her through just her words. She's a lyricist, a singer or songwriter. The words are her thing. The way she bounces back and forth from flashback to thoughts to reflection is so seamless and feels like one consecutive thought. She's definitely a lyricist and singer, the way she uses choice adjectives and vividly describes physical to mental/emotional feelings from being so present. And then I wrote, now I gotta take a nap. And I did. I still have to rate it on Goodreads, but I think I want to give it like a 4.5 or a 5. I don't know how to do the 0.5 stuff on Goodreads. It's either like a 4 or a 5. What a journey. I understand why it was such a big thing for a while. I'm just late to the party, but I partied. I'm here, we're partying. Speaking of, I've been trying to revamp my YouTube shorts and I want to start something called book clubbing. That is a really weird segue, but I did a poll on Instagram and people wanted to get some book recs from me. So I'm gonna call it book clubbing, because I don't go clubbing. I want to sit and read. I guess this is the first video of book clubbing. I think the overall feeling I got from this was, for some reason, just wanting to be her friend. I feel like I was just listening to her rant to me and I wanted to listen to her. I was like, girl, keep going. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Let me know your thoughts. If you read this, anything else you wanted to add about this? Questions, comments, concerns? Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. So all I wanna do is think about what you think about when you think about